Hey, what's going on, family and friends? Ray Fuentes here, reporting from Singapore for Ripple's flagship XRPL community event, the XRPL Apex Conference, dedicated to the builders shaping this ecosystem. The conference hasn't even officially kicked off just yet, but I've already connected with the Easy A Bros, Phil and Dom Kwon, who I just saw at the XRP Las Vegas conference, and I've just met with the Ripple core developer team, some founders of the XRPL Commons, and the Flare team while in attendance at their event, the XRP5 pregame event, and I believe Flare is about to drop some major news this week, and I cannot wait. Huge thanks to Boone Bergsma, founder of Web3 Industries, for the opportunity to join this trip. Boone will be speaking on stage at Apex just as he did at the recent XRP Las Vegas conference. He's developed a powerful tokenization engine designed to transform businesses across any industry. Boone may be the underdog in the room, but having traveled with him across the United States and now internationally, I can say firsthand, he's as gritty as they come, and in my book, passion beats talent 100% of the time. Now with that being said, here's an interview with an ultra high net worth investor who's been a Ripple supporter since the early days. We dive deep into several compelling topics, including insights on my former employer Link2, which I'm confident you'll find value in this conversation. So thanks for tuning in. Love you mucho. What's going on, family and friends? We're back for another thought-provoking production. Today, I'm joined by a dear ally of the Ray Fuentes brand, the channel. And for the benefit of my guest, I'm not going to reveal his identity, but not just for the benefit of him, but also for the benefit of my community as well. Since we're preserving his identity, he's willing and able to share as much as he can without putting himself in danger or breaking any NDAs. So during this interview, we'll refer to our special guest as Legend. And with that being said, let's bring him up on the stage. Legend, how you doing today, sir?
Ray, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me today. Hey, I know your time is precious, being let me just say, a whale within the community. Let's talk about all things Ripple Labs and all things that are, I would say, breaking within the industry right now. So to kick things off, Ripple has become a household name in the digital asset space. What are your thoughts on the company and its evolution over the years?
Just think that through blockchain technology, Ripple has found a way to enable global financial institutions, businesses, governments, and developers to move, manage, and tokenize value, helping to unlock greater economic opportunity for everyone, everywhere.
Well said. Now, understanding that we are amidst an era of tokenization, many things are being digitized as we speak, real world assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, and so much more. Even my former employer, Link2, I believe personally, not coming from them, I believe that they have everything in their power to tokenize special purpose vehicles, the products or units of account which their members are investing in, representing the underlying equities that they invest in on their platform. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that we're amidst a new era of finance where real world assets, including SPVs, are being tokenized, and not just being tokenized, but being tokenized specifically on the XRP Ledger?
In terms of SPVs, it's like any other thing that's moving from the paper world to the digital world. It can be tokenized. The most important thing is that value that's associated with that SPV. You get that on the XRP Ledger, and there you have it. You have something that you can move.
So do you think that this is all relative to even the regulations that are coming into the fold right now?
Oh, of course, with regulation, it just provides a way for value in different jurisdictions to be able to come together, to be able to be interoperable, to be able to move with less friction. SPVs, it's a little different when we talk about moving value and moving SPVs. It's different in the sense that SPVs are still holding something that's underlying. And then when that underlying asset is able to appreciate, it will be neat to see how that value will be captured and moved on the ledger, if it's possible. I'm sure it's possible, but the biggest thing is being able to have that function to be interoperable with different jurisdictions. I think that's the thing that I want to see, if it's going to be able to be conceived that way.
Makes sense then why we're seeing Ripple hire strategically all over the world, like other market participants, Consensus,
I believe Circle as well, who also just recently IPO'd. We'll talk about them in a second. But moving back over to Ripple, understanding that they have been doing recent strategic hires, does it seem like they're getting more or increasingly involved in politics, especially here in the US?
Well, I think so. I think Ripple is no longer the little small Silicon Valley company in California, especially when you can drop 200 million on a lawsuit and still function at a high level in terms of buying their shares back, buying other companies, buying Inroad, for example, buying Medico. That doesn't sound like a little company. And then also having 3.1 billion in cash on hand. That doesn't sound like a small company to me, and I'm sure they're positioning themselves to be able to capture the marketplace with anything that's tokenized, especially SPVs. That may be the connection to a flailing company linked to.
I like how you frame that, but not around linked to, unfortunately, Legend. Moving on, still talking about Ripple, but also including Circle, another stablecoin issuer who just recently IPO'd at or around $30, $31 just yesterday. And within 24 hours, they're now at $110, according to Yahoo here. What's interesting to me is there's a rumor about Ripple potentially acquiring Circle. Do you think that's even a possibility, a private company acquiring a now public company?
There's always a possibility. Where there's money, there's always a way. But looking at the back end of things, it's just something about that don't make sense. After all the millions of dollars that's been used to lobby, what are we lobbying for? Some people think we may be lobbying to have a way for us to be able to use stable coins to pay for this, for that. Okay, let's look at the back end. The back end pertaining to politics and our government, they have a need too, and that need is to keep the dollar strong. So while we're looking at things one way in terms of how we're going to use stable coins in the marketplace, let's look at how the governments will tend to use stablecoin issuers in another place. And in that other place, we're creating a marketplace. A marketplace for what? A marketplace or participants to purchase U.S. treasuries.
Bingo.
And that's it. And there you have it. That's why Circle is important. This is why Ripple is so politically important. Because now we're creating a marketplace for stable coin issuers to come in and become that purveyor of U.S. treasuries, where we don't need to rely on other countries to hold those U.S. treasuries any longer.
Now, understanding that Ripple just recently launched its stablecoin RLUSD, how do you see its role evolving, not just domestically, but internationally as well?
RLUSD, when I look at its role, what's stuck in my mind is that it's not used with front-end money. I see it as enterprise-grade institutional instrument. That's what it's used for. It's not, you cannot take RLUSD and go to Starbucks and buy a cup of coffee. You can take USDC, you can go to Starbucks, and you can buy your cup of coffee. And that's one of the big major differences. I don't think that people understand that RLUSD is not just any old type of stablecoin. It's a regulated stablecoin that deals with regulated entities, that deals with regulated capital.
What are your thoughts then on Tether if we're talking about regulated stablecoins? What do you think, or how do you think Tether will remain outside of the US, especially in emerging markets or beyond the US jurisdiction?
I tell you what, different jurisdictions are obtaining different rules, and one of those rules is just about reserves. In Tether, they're willing to continue to do the things that make them money. They don't really care about those rules yet, but when those rules come and they find themselves in that particular marketplace, they will have to adjust or they will go away to a different jurisdiction. For example, with MICA, I know there's going to be some volume restrictions and some transactional restrictions that they're coming up with. So you just can't come in and just say, oh, we're going to move 100 to 200 billion or 1 trillion USDT in one day. They have these caps in place. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to operate. And then, of course, you will have to have those reserves in their banks, that cash. I think the reserves was 60% and maybe going up. But as far as I know, Tether, they are looking at their business model and what makes them more money. And they're investing in things like Bitcoin. They're the 7th largest holder of Bitcoin. They're doing this with profits in mind. And they believe that U.S. Treasuries isn't the best way to turn a profit. It's political, right? It's strategic, depending on what jurisdiction that they need to be in. And remember, Ripple is also a user through their liquidity hub for global settlements. They use USDT. Ripple also uses USDC. They hadn't stopped cold turkey. So the idea of Ripple buying Circle, or was Ripple going to buy Tether also? They're going to buy everybody? No. We're creating a marketplace, and U.S. Treasuries are the product. Now, do Tether want to be a market participant? If they become a market participant, I'm pretty sure they'll be more than welcome in the U.S. jurisdiction. But if they don't, then they won't.
You're making me think, Legend, about some numbers. I believe Circle has transacted nearly $25 trillion since the inception of its stablecoin USDC. How much of that do you think Ripple supported along the way in a percentage wise, if you were to guess?
Ripple stated that at one point they minted 20% of circulating USDC. So is it fair to still say 20%? Because RLUSD is really not moving the way that it should because of regulations. The 300 million that's being circulated, that amount is rolling through Europe. It's not in the US. It's outside of the US. So that Medico acquisition that Ripple had acquired this company, they're the ones that's building RLUSD at this point with that 300 million that's circulating now. So that's not really in the US. In terms of what Circle is doing, it's fair to say 10 to 20%. I don't believe that they'll cut their nose off to spite their face if they're still doing business outside of the US.
So what you're saying is they don't need to acquire Circle to benefit. It's in their best interest to have another market participant. Last question, Legend, before I let you go, sir. And again, thank you for joining me today. I know you're very busy, so appreciate your time. What else do you think is not being talked about enough in the market amidst the greatest wealth transfer we've ever seen?
It's a good question, Ray. One of the things I think that's not being talked about is the trade-off. The trade-off with the use of digital assets. Digital assets are here to stay. That value is coming, whether you like it or not. The trade-off is that the banking system doesn't care how much money that you make off of these things. It really doesn't, because you'll never have more money than the banking system. The trade-off is this: surveillance and monitoring. Data. Data is the new currency, especially as we're starting to feed the AI training models. We need the data. That's the trade-off. We'll give you some value. You give us the data. If we give you value, then we get that same value, whether you like it or not. But we're also going to get your privacy, whether you like it or not. I want to keep it simple. People don't want to believe that this is real and the money is real. But this money is real, like this value, it's real. It really goes into your bank account. But I just think understanding what's at stake, it's best to just be cooperative and collaborative. You don't want to be siloed, because you know what? In this world of digitization, there's always going to be someone with something that's better. So why not be collaborative and allow them to build on what you already have? Thinking a little bit about blockchain going forward.
Legend, it's been quite the pleasure to have you on the channel. Looking forward to having you back as soon as you're willing and able to. If you had any closing remarks, now's your time, or I'll let you off into the weekend.
I will say this: Ripple has more influence and more power than is being led to believe. Am I bullish? Of course I am. But I will tell you, there's more to come in pertaining to this company.
I can only imagine. I feel like we're just scraping the surface, and it leads down many different rabbit holes. But Legend, thank you very much for sharing your time with me. I look forward to, as mentioned, having you back as soon as you're willing and able. And on behalf of my community, we love you mucho, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and weekend. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Ray.